Cousin falsely accused me of SA. Now my family is contacting me after almost 10 years part 2. So it's been around 3 months since I last posted the previous post and a decent amount has happened. Some for the better and some for the worse. For one, E is still a huge a-hole. Around a week after my family sent me the messages, she also reached out with a huge apology text. When I received it, I couldn't believe my eyes. She was talking about how she had mental problems and has been dealing with them for ages, almost as an excuse as to why she did this to me. She said she needed help and her parents were helping her get it. This seemed like BS to me because all my life I knew E. She was a beaming, radiant girl, until that dreadful day in 2014. The whole text felt like she was just feeding me excuses to why it happened, and then ending it off with the shortest actual apology. My original plan was to go on with my life and try to slowly make it better and better, but seeing this pushed me to my limit. I had to respond, and tear into her with the most vile words I could think of. In the end, the actual text I ended up sending said, "You think your mental problems are bad? Try being torn away and excommunicated from your whole family for 10 years when you were just in the infant years of your adult life, and see how bad those mental problems become. I am still trying to deal with all of this and the last thing I need is the culprit of my misery feeding me excuses as to why it happened. My other relatives may have been in the dark the whole time, but you knew the entire time, and it never dawned on you to say things sooner? You're lucky I didn't unalive myself at this point. My parents and sibling might be another story, but I will never be able to forgive you for the irreversible damage you have done to me and my relationships. Please, rot in hell and never contact me again." She hasn't responded, but I can see that she got the message because of read receipts. Maybe she took the hint to not respond. The good news is that I also responded to my parents. Nothing crazy in text because we really got the whole conversation out over the phone. It felt weird hearing their voices again. I used to relate those voices to being safe and home, but after what happened it was a whole new feeling. At first, I hated it. All the sour memories popped back into my brain from the day I last spoke to them. Those voices had been screaming at me for things I didn't even do. The conversation lasted about 3 to 4 hours, and while it was hard for me and most likely them, it was the most productive conversation I've ever had with them. I thought it would be a lot of excuses just like E, but to my surprise, they not only apologized a million times over, but told me everything they were in the wrong about. They said it was weighing on them all these years and now that the truth is out they don't know how they can live with themselves. The one really hard part was when I asked them why they didn't hear me out or believe their own son compared to a niece. They told me they struggled with it immensely but E had made it so believable that they felt they had no choice. I told them that instead of just cutting contact, they should have at least tried to get me help, but they gave me nothing to work with. They said they knew this and that was the hardest part. After the first year or two, they said they wanted to contact me and try to figure things out, but they ultimately decided that me being who I was would not talk to them and things would just get worse. That got me heated a little bit because who cares what type of person I am? What I really am is your son and that comes first. At the end we came to the conclusion that we will stay in contact. I am not going over to visit them or anything but it's a start. While there is still so much hatred in my heart for them, I feel like things can get better, and that's why I'm somewhat happy. Since that phone call, we frequently check up on each other, and conversations are slowly getting back to what they used to be. Maybe I'll visit them someday, but I don't know when that will be or how it will go. How am I supposed to hug and say hi to the people who threw me out of their life? My wife is suggesting we open our marriage to my childhood friend. My wife and I have been together for 10 years, married for 8, and now have 2 small kids together. She is the love of my life and I could not imagine myself with anyone else. About 3 years into our marriage she started to show attraction to Asian characters in the shows and movies we watched together on our weekly movie nights. At first I brushed it off as a joke, but I realized she was serious about a month ago when we started watching Chicago Med. She joked often of wanting one of the characters, Dr. Choi, to be her doctor so he could feel her up. I laughed along, until she insisted we stop watching when Dr. Choi got into a relationship with another doctor. Thinking about it now, throughout our entire relationship Asian men caught her attention. For the past few years, she's been obsessed with popular K-pop members, joking how she would rather be with Eric Moon and Jimin. Even going as far to say that she's disappointed she got stuck with a white man and that our babies aren't as cute. A friend of mine since childhood is Korean and visits with us often. He and my wife have become friends. I always thought she acted weird around him, but I never took it personally until last night. As I was cleaning up dinner, she put the kids to bed and asked to sit down and have a talk about something important. I was hesitant, but agreed. She started it by saying that she didn't feel like our SX life was as fulfilling as it used to be. I was taken aback and asked what I could do to bring her more fulfillment. She suggested we bring in a third person into our SX life. I instantly knew she had someone in mind despite her denying it. After an hour of talking in circles she revealed she had been having sensual thoughts and urges regarding my childhood friend and she suggested I watch. I was stunned and told her I didn't want to discuss this anymore and slept in the living room. She took the kids to school this morning and went to help her sister pack as she is moving soon. We haven't spoken since last night and I don't know what to do. I'm sitting in my car outside my office writing this. I don't want to go home and see her knowing what she's thinking about. I think I want a divorce as she's clearly no longer the woman I fell in love with and I suspect she has already acted upon her urges with him. Is that too big of a jump over a sensual fantasy? Update post. To fill you all in relatively quickly, I returned home the night I made the post and my wife and I were still not speaking. I waited until she was putting the kids to bed to make a call to my friend. I wanted to talk to him alone. I slipped outside and made the call. I told him everything. He told me he was so sorry for me and that my wife's behavior was disgusting. He then confessed to me that a few years into my wife and I's marriage she, drunk, made a move on him at a mutual friend's party. It began as flirting and my friend was not entertaining it. She kissed him and he left the party early. I asked him why he never told me about it. He said he didn't want to ruin our marriage over something she did while drunk. They never spoke about it and continued as normal friends. Now that a week has passed, I figured out that this party aligns with the start of her strange behavior towards Asian men in the media. I thanked him for sharing this with me and hung up. I immediately went inside and confronted my wife. I was officially disgusted with her for pushing a kiss on my friend and suggesting I watch her be with him. I told her exactly how I was feeling and what my friend had told me. My wife admitted she only asked to open our bedroom to him because she has had feelings for him for years and wanted to keep herself from cheating on me. I explained that she already had, and wrecked the foundation of our relationship. I told her we were divorcing, not to try and stop me. I was not changing my mind. In the last week I have been staying with friends and family. She has done nothing but harass me via my number. I am proud to say I have given her no attention. I see her still while stopping by my house during the day for my kids. They are too young to understand what's going on. As I mentioned in my last post, they attend a daycare/schooling program for young children during the summer. As a result, I never spend long in the house and typically leave while taking them there. She won't mention it in front of them, so it hasn't been an issue. I have been seeking out a lawyer for divorce proceedings and looking for an apartment in my kids' school district. I feel relieved that many of you were right. Our marriage has been dead for a very long time. I'm not sure if I can ever see my friend the same way. I want to start therapy and try to work on it. He's been a very close friend since childhood and I would hate to lose him. My friends and family have been very supportive, so have most of you on Reddit. You've helped me very much and made me feel valid in my feelings. I thank you all for that. My ex-fiancée unalived herself after I wouldn't take her back. Now, everyone's blaming me. Me and my ex-fiancée had been together for almost 6 years and engaged for 4 out of those 6 years. I was introduced to her by a close friend at a party and we just clicked. She was attractive, had a great personality and had similar hobbies as me, which made it perfect. Back in April of this year I started noticing little changes in her. She started wearing more revealing clothes to work, started putting on more makeup, etc. To be honest, I had no problem with any of that stuff as it's her body. She can wear whatever and put however much makeup she wanted to, but what made things worse for me was when she started coming home late from work, or how instead of spending the weekend off with me, she instead was always going out. I once had asked her why she never invited me to come out with her, to which she replied that it's only girls' night out and that her other friends would not be happy if I tagged along as they were not bringing their own boyfriends with them. It all came crashing down when me and her had a huge fight in June because she decided that instead of going out on a date with me, she told me how she already had made plans with her friends and that it was rude of her to cancel. That was it for me. I fucking blew up at her and we had huge fight, which resulted in her packing her bags and leaving. I didn't hear from her for almost a week. None of her friends knew where she was and heck, none of her folks even knew what was going on until she finally contacted me and wanted to talk. Imagine my surprise when she confessed to me that there was another guy involved and how all this time she was hanging out with him, when all this time she was lying to me about hanging out with her friends. I fucking blew up. I wanted nothing to do with her and was going to break up with her until she got on her knees and begged me to give her a second chance, which my dumbass self did, but only after she revealed everything to me, and she did. It made me fucking sick to my stomach, but in the end I forgave her and told her to delete all contact with the other guy and that I expect her to have no contact with him going forward, which she promised, and things kinda went back to before. Heck, we were even spending more time together, but that feeling, that trust wasn't there anymore. Everything was kinda okay until 2 weeks ago a friend of mine who was visiting another city, which was 3 hours from where I live, sent me a picture with the message, "Sorry bro," that broke my already broken heart into a billion little pieces. The picture was of my ex-fiancée at a mall 3 hours away from where we lived, holding hands with some stranger who I didn't know. I fucking broke down. I was heartbroken. She was a bitch, a piece of shit, especially since I thought she was at work while in reality she was 3 hours away holding hands with her lover. When I got home from work I waited for her and right away confronted her, which she denied and called me a psycho for not believing her and that I was a piece of shit for not trusting her, until I showed her the picture that my friend sent me. Her face told me everything, and when the waterworks started I knew that I had made a huge mistake in taking her back, so I ended it. She cried and fucking begged me to think it over and not to throw away everything that we have together, which made me fucking angry, and I'm not going to lie, but I fucking slapped her. I was not proud. I'm still not, but she said shit like not to throw away everything when it was her who threw away everything that pissed me off. I told her to pack her shit and leave, called her parents and mine and told them everything. Her parents came to help her and I told them to basically fuck off after they told me to think it over and to make the right decision before actually ending it. She begged me not to end things, but I did, had to, for my own peace of mind. I did not hear from her or her parents until 3 days ago when my parents called me to let me know that my ex-fiancée had unalived herself. Her parents found her hanging and she had left a letter apologizing to everyone, including my parents and me, and how she is sorry from the bottom of her heart for what she did to me and how she can't live without me, and because of that she ended it. I am at a fucking loss. My ex-fiancée friends and family are blaming me, and my own mother told me that it was my fault. She told me that I should have forgiven her since I'm clearly worth unaliving over. I am fucking disgusted. I have currently taken some time off from work and have not a single clue what to do. When has religion tore your marriage apart? Me and my wife have been Christians either all or the majority of our lives. However, the way I've been feeling about my beliefs started due to past experiences and trauma. I met my wife at her church when I was 18 and she was 15. I was at a low point in my life and was looking for answers, and like most people in the South I decided to find it in a Southern Baptist church. The first time I saw my wife she sang in a youth band, to which I thought she was the most beautiful person I had ever met. I didn't go up and talk to her due to me being a bad introvert. However, she was the first one to say hello. We began talking and she told me that she wouldn't date anyone who wasn't saved or who she wouldn't marry. So 4 months later I became saved and we started dating. Fast forward to 2 years later, I was going through another tough time in my life, but this time it was due to the people at church and not my own convictions. The church we were going to started preaching how God chose people before they were born on who goes to heaven or hell. I, being the level-headed person and who joined the church at a later age than most, realized that this was wrong and not what they taught new people who joined their church or new Christians. I voiced my opinion about how I believed it was wrong. Apparently that was not the right choice, as I was not only ostracized, but was also pulled aside by high-ranking people in the church saying I better shut my mouth and keep my opinions to myself if I knew what was good for me. On top of all that, they tried to split up my wife and I, who was still my girlfriend at the time, saying that I was being blasphemous and was a sinner to the worst degree. Fortunately, my wife was also level-headed and would tell them to stop talking to her. Once she graduated from high, she left the church with me and we went to another church that our friends went to. I was very hesitant and walked on eggshells around this new church because of how the last one treated me. Well, not 1 month after we started this new church, we found out my wife was pregnant. Knowing I couldn't provide for my wife and child on a college student's salary, I decided to join the military. We got 3 months before I left and everything went smoothly. Her parents were less than happy but pushed aside their feelings and concerns to ensure that we had an amazing wedding. After boot camp, I went to my school in the military, which was 2 years long, and my wife moved in with me. I was finally away from all the church and Christian influences, and with a baby on the way, I decided to find my own beliefs and happiness. I believed for 5 years that God didn't have an influence in our lives, just that He created us and let us live out our lives. It was always an awkward conversation to have with my wife, but we still loved each other very much and we were willing to work things out, not only for our marriage but for our daughter's healthy life as well. Fast forward to February of this year. I had hurt myself and was diagnosed with 2 herniated discs and degenerative disc disease and was in constant pain. I was told I couldn't do my job in the military anymore and that I was probably going to be separated within the next 6 months. I decided to pray to God for not only relief from pain but to find happiness, as I had discovered that nothing in life except my family gave me happiness or joy, which put me in the worst mental health situation I've ever had in my life. I heard no answer and decided that this stuff I had believed in for the majority of my life was false. I never told my wife, as I thought I would destroy our marriage since the topic of religion was already a sore spot. I finally worked up the courage to tell her 1 month ago everything that I had found out in my new beliefs. At first she was silent and said she needed time to think. She told me her thoughts 2 days later and said she still loves me but isn't happy about my decision. I have fallen into a deep depression since, because my injury has gotten worse to the point that I can't pick up my children. I look to my wife for comfort and love, but all I see is shame and pain when she looks at me. She had started to act more distant from me, almost focusing on the kids more, while I sat in my bed in pain. She still regularly takes the kids to church, and I can only hope that she is not talking about our problems to other people. We have also had numerous arguments about things that we disagree on now. The love seems to be diminishing, and I have no clue to how to fix it or what to do. I don't know how much more I can take, and I can't live much longer like this. Any advice?